Willkommen and howdy, and welcome to this episode of the Farg Motorpool. This entire video will be made up of different sections in which we filmed over the last couple of weeks. We've been extremely busy at the moment working on Peugeot P4 Jeeps, as used or just finished being used by the French Army. Now, everything was going really well. We managed to put a new starter motor in there. We were getting the engine to turn over. We're really excited because it's probably the first time the engine is ran since probably 2000, and there was a piece of paper here actually left by the last person who worked on it as he gave up on the vehicle, and now we know why, because he's probably had enough. Wrote on there, it's broken, and threw that under the bonnet. So we found that piece of paper, thought won't going to daunt us, we'll crack on with it. So new starter on motor, as I said, on there. We replaced the radiator, we put new hoses on there, we put a new clutch in there, we bled the clutch down, and of course all this footage you'll get to see later, but we can't get it to run smoothly. It will tick over, very lumpy. As soon as you rev, the thing cuts out. So what we're going to have to do now is take the injection pump, or the pump that actually supplies the diesel, completely off and replace it with another one. So that is the issue. Now that's going to take a while because we have to source a pump. We obviously have to look up about how we maintain the timing and actually getting that work done. So in the meanwhile, we rolled in another Peugeot P4 that we had waiting in the wings, and that's the beginning of this video, as I'm just going to show you around the rot spots on a Peugeot body. So the places where the Peugeot rots the worst and what you need to look out for. So here we have the Peugeot P4 body on the ramps, so I'm able to work on it. You will see immediately that this is the sill. The sills on these come across and wrap upwards. Obviously the vehicle's upside down, so it looks like it's going down. So this wraps upwards, and then this panel, this body panel, is attached to that sill. So there's no inner and outer sill, as you may get in some other motor cars and ones that I've worked on. Let's just see what I'm finding in there. This one has a singular box section sill that runs down its length. So the first place, and these don't usually rot in and around here, but they certainly do in this area at the top, which is part of the strengthening. So let me jump up. So here's a cross section that runs just underneath the footwell on both the passenger and the driver's side. And the French and the Germans, to a certain extent, did themselves a great favour in one sense and a great disfavour in another. And the great favour was they've coated the bottom of this vehicle in some fantastically difficult to remove, watertight and fire resistant coating, but what an absolute nightmare to remove it once you're trying to do any sort of repairs. Also with this is where it blisters, or that gets nicked, or it gets scratched, water gets behind it and then it's held against the bodywork, and you can actually see this cross member is actually rotted through. Now, it would be fantastic to say, and I'm a great advocate of not putting this sort of undersill on a vehicle and just using straightforward sort of a paint or even a thin coat of plastic. Has also now gone upwards, because this is obviously upside down, and it's gone into the footwell. So now the footwell is now got a hole in it as well. Now what you will see in here is this strengthened part, and that is where the body is attached to the chassis. So it's highly important that at least this is intact. If you were to see a vehicle and all of this was completely rotted out, I would certainly steer probably clear away from it, but I think this is salvageable as that reinforced mounting point. You can see here, when the wheels are spinning, they're just throwing dirt up and it just traps it. There we go. So this is probably some sort of African dirt. So this is not bad back here. I think this one's very salvageable. You can actually see there the original paint still on it, so that we're good. We've got that one, which is unusual. I would usually find this one rusted, and usually a very bad rot point is in here, which is by the rear wheel. Now, indeed, there is a hole up in here, but it's actually not that bad. Usually this seam fills with water and expands outwards. And now we're getting into the rear wheel arch. And yes, these always do seem to rot again in here. I think that's simply water and dirt coming up off of the wheel. Bodies of these are made really quite well. There's a lot of thought went into them. Most of the outriggers have got drain holes in them, so it means they were always draining themselves, which is good. The seals had drain holes in them as well, which were meant to have drained. Why did it get so bad? I think that the coating that was placed on the bottom of the vehicle was an excellent idea at the time, but over the years it's just held moisture against the body and rotted it out. Where did that moisture come from? The majority of it would have come from above, because these vehicles have canvas roofs and doors. Water's always getting in. Some of them were used without the roofs, etc. And that all fed down through the sides of the vehicles and gathered in these outriggers. Added to that, lots of mud and detritus. We're always bringing out rounds, bullets, if you want me to call them that, badges, money, goodness, by fishing them out. So they were an area for trapping things. And I think that was what gave the downfall for these particular bodies. You can buy a new body. They are available in France. Quite a bit of money. So we're going to see if we can repair this one and get it back onto its chassis. So join me later on, either in this video or the next one, depends how the editing goes, and we'll actually have a look at the chassis that this came off of, and we'll be able to go through the salient points on that. But in summary, those chassis last really, really well. The weak spot of the Peugeot P4 is the body, where panels meet, and they're covered in this flame retardant undersill. And this one, even though it was in a horrendous state when we got it, with detritus and stuff growing on it, it's actually cleaned up quite nicely. The good thing and saving grace for this particular vehicle is the fact that the floor pans are in excellent comparison with the body we were looking at before, that these Peugeots can actually last. We've got a couple of rust points here. I did talk about this. Oh, you may have seen it in one of the earlier in this video. And again, this is simply two panels joining each other. This wheel arch comes down and wraps across, and then the floor panel's put on top. So you've got two layers of metal on top of each other, trapping water between the two and then rusting it out. But that's the reason why we're working on this vehicle at the moment on the engine, because there is really no point, unless the thing runs and drives, of you continuing to start to do body work on it. So that's what we need to solve first. The Jeep with the body off that we were looking at earlier, that is good mechanically. It's an absolute beautiful drive. Brakes well, accelerates well, it's quiet, it's fast. It's a really, really nice bit of kit, but it's just let down by the body. So, body off, let's get it fixed. This one, we can't even get it to run properly. Butterfingers Colin, we'll call him 4.5 fingers Colin, because he's just sliced the top off of one of them. Well done. We broke the windscreen. I'll show you that picture there. There we go. We broke the windscreen when we were taking this one off. Very, very simple thing to have done. I reckon there was a crack in it already, and that was the reason it broke. Not because we are two middle-aged men making an absolute meal out of everything. So we've put new batteries in this one. You'll see the video for that. We've put a new starter motor in. You'll see the video for that. And what I will do now is I will try and start it and show you the thing actually does run, sort of. So tomorrow, when we've got better light, we're probably going to be taking that pump off. Just hang on one second. Okay, so this is the pump. It's the heart of the diesel engine, and basically this is a roto pump. So what that means is there is a rotational element in there that squirts the diesel out. So this is where the diesel goes in, this is where the diesel comes out. And you say, why do you have diesel coming out of the pump? The reason is it's not all fuel that gets sucked in gets used, so therefore it can bypass the injectors and go back to the fuel tank. So that's why you always have a feed and a return on a fuel tank in a diesel vehicle. Therefore, this is a roto pump. It's rotated at the front here. by a chain that goes down and underneath the crank, and that then squirts diesel in a regular pattern out of these 4 pipes at the back. These 4 pipes or ports correspond to each one of the injectors that's on the top of the engine. On the diesel engine, unlike a petrol, you don't really have a spark plug. So these, what look like a spark plug, are actually the injectors. So what happens is the fuel flows into the pump. The pump then, in this case, is a roto pump, so it rotates. It squirts diesel under high pressure into one of these, which is the injector. In the very end, which you can't see, is a tiny, tiny little, looks like a pin sticking out, and that's what it is. When these build up enough pressure, I can't remember what these work at, but basically this pin is released backwards and it lets out a jet of vaporized diesel fuel into the chamber. The piston comes up, it compresses that, and ignition happens. So there's not a spark to set this off. There are things called glow plugs, which can certainly heat the fuel and heat the system, which helps. Like I see, this is leaking all over me at the moment. And this is the preheat. So inside of here is a coil of wire and a 24 volt is being passed through that at the moment. And when this starts to glow, that means that the glow plugs are sufficiently heated and we can start the engine. So there we go, you can just sort of seeing it. The French Army, interestingly, realised that you can take the tops off of these and light your cigarettes from them. Okay, so as I said, it runs, but that's as much as we can get out of it. So it's idling, it's not very happy at the moment. There probably is a certain amount of air that's got in the system since we put on the new fuel supply. I'm going to rev it now and you will see the engine will just cut out. So here we go, I'm going to rev it. Not happy at all, that's me. You can see. Okay, so we've changed the injection pump on this one and we've now got it running. Fantastic. Looks like it's got quite a good charge rate. Temperature seems quite good on it. Brakes are really good. Handbrake doesn't seem to come on, so we're going to have a look at that today. And also we'll do a bit of a test drive now with it and you can listen as well. We've got quite a grating noise coming out from underneath the floor. We're not quite sure where that is at the moment. That could be the rear axle. It could be dragging brakes, but my gut reaction is that the transfer box either has nothing in it, i.e. no oil whatsoever, or it's damaged. So if you want to jump in, let's go for a drive and see if we can hear out for those. So what we're listening out for now is I'm going to go along, I'm going to put it into neutral so we can try and hear some of the sounds coming out from the running gear. If that's not clear enough, when we go over the cattle group, going down a slight slope, I'll actually turn the engine off and then we'll listen in then. So here we go. So we're listening in and around this area. I don't know if you're picking that up on the camera. Here we go, I'll put the clutch in. I'll turn the engine off as well. I'm sure you can hear it now. Sounds absolutely horrible. Okay, I think we've got noises coming from the front, we've got some from the back, and we've definitely got something happening behind me here on the floor. So what we're going to do, let's get this Jeep in, we'll get it jacked up. We'll spin the wheels firstly when they're off the floor, and so we can hear if it's bearings or if it's the brakes dragging. And that aren't familiar with the way that vehicles are put together, each one of the wheels, we come down here, Ollie, each one of the wheels sits on usually a pair of bearings in here. So bearings are ball bearings that are kept inside of what's called a race, which is basically a metal band that holds them together, and that's where the weight is transferred into the wheel through these very, very hard steel ball bearings. So we're going to rotate the wheel, and we heard the noise if you did pick it up, but if not, it was a horrible grating noise. We're going to find out if it's coming from the wheel. So here we go. I'm going to spin this one up. No. Right, you've got very, there's shoe brakes on the back of here. We're going to take these off anyway and have a look. But there's a very, very small amount of drag that we can hear there, but that's sort of quite normal. We can get away with that. So we'll listen again. If you come a bit closer, but see if you can pick up on the sound. You ready? Okay, there we go. So there's nothing wrong with that bearing at all. That's absolutely silent. We've got a slight, as I said, brake drag on it. So let's go and investigate now the rear axle. And how we do that is we're going to chock, or in fact Ollie's going to help me and go on the other side. We're going to spin these wheels at the same time in the same direction, because at the moment it's just using the diff. I'm spinning this one clockwise. On the opposite side you'll see it spinning anti-clockwise. So we're both going to spin in the same direction at the same time, and we're going to listen for that rear axle. So let's do that now. It helps if you have the camera turned on. I just lost a complete section there, but here we go. It's a bit early in the morning. Right, okay Ollie, you ready to spin clockwise?
Yep.
Here we go. I'm not sure if you picked that up. I'll go a bit closer, so maybe you can. Here we go again. Ready? Oh, hang on. 1, 2, 3, go. Wow, horrendous. There's something not right under there. It doesn't sound like the rear axle either. It's definitely coming from that from the transfer box. So we're going to send Ollie under. Yes, we're safe. We've got it chocked. We've got our axle stands in place. Ollie's going to pop underneath. We're going to try and I'll chock the wheel on the other side. I'll spin this one, and he'll listen if that noise is coming out the transfer box. But I think that's our culprit. Okay, I'm going to hand you over to Ollie now. Take you underneath. Okay, so we've chocked the other wheel, and we're going to turn it now. You ready?
Yep. I think I found the culprit.
Underneath the vehicle at the moment, and he's already taken out the filler plug from the transfer box, and now he's going to be undoing the drain plug from underneath. You can probably see him here on the side. There we go. Quite a tough one, is it? Language now, Ollie. I'm going to have to censor that out. There may be children watching.
Oh, apologies.
If they are, then good luck to them, because this isn't the most scintillating TV. Could be watching cartoons instead. So there we go. So we'll leave it on with that. Over here is the filler plug. Goodness me, it's covered in gunk. So I'm expecting quite a bit of swarf probably to come out the bottom of this. So in that effect, we're going to take it through this fine mesh filter and see what metal parts we get out, whether they're white metal, which would be bearings, or magnetic steel parts, which would be the teeth. So leave Ollie with it. Do you need a bar?
Quite possibly.
Transfer oil, if there is any, through. Oh my god, is that water?
Yep.
It's water.
Yep.
Okay, so that's a new one on me. It seems that the transfer box is full of water. Not a great lubricant. I would possibly think that was. I wasn't expecting that. And there's no oil either.
No.
No.
Just mud and water.
Mud and water.
State of that.
Okay, so something probably tells me that they drove this into a river or a pond and left it for a while. Unless rainwater somehow has managed to get into the transfer. I don't know how would it get in there? No,
there's not really. I mean, unless the seals are gone.
I mean, that's going
to take a while to fill up that much with water.
That's it's been driven into a river or something, isn't it?
Yeah, I think because it's all rusty and stuff down there. Isn't it?
At the workshop we have this, which is a P4 without its body. This one is being broken for parts, so that's really useful to us because here is the transfer box that we're after. As you can see, the engine's up here under a cover, comes out in the 4-speed box. There is a universal joint and a small prop shaft that takes the power into the transfer box, and it's transferred out again by another prop to the front if you're in 4-wheel drive, and naturally, unless it's in neutral, straight out to the rear. So what we're going to do on this one is the drain is just down under here. Ollie's going to undo that now. We're going to drop it out into this 190 micron filter, and we'll see what we get out. And then if this one looks to be okay, I know the vehicle drove very well because I used to own it back in the day. We will just transfer across.
Because it's not webbed.
Here we have the older cohort of today's workshop, and he's going to give up soon if I carry on like that. And he's just fitting a replacement starter motor. This P4 you haven't seen before. We've just dragged it out of the shed. Probably going to take us a while to get this one going, but we'll try and get it spinning over later on today. This one's definitely been sat for probably 15 years.
How many blokes does it take to change a transfer box?
You've got to hit those bolts. I'm going to hold this up while you put that in.
Sure? No! Hang on, I can't get it in.
It's a weird fucking angle. There's that. Yeah? No.
They're multiplying under there.
Yeah.
That's alright, that's why I've got to lift it up.
Oh, there's one. Oh.
Be ready to fucking put it on.
One.
Oh, hazelnuts! Hey! Why have we not got a nylock?
We've got 4 nylocks. Lead on them.
It's a nylock. There you are. Here. Let's get the other 2. You ready?
Yeah. Oh, it's another one.
That's it. Hold it there, please. Yeah, hold it up.
There you go.
Behind me we have our final P4 from the batch that we brought in from France. We had about 7. You've seen on some of this previous part of this video us working on one that had to be put to one side. In fact, there was a second one we've taken the body off, and so it gets very confusing really because they all look very much the same. But this is the final one. So this one has been sat outside for a very long time. We've not done anything with it. Apart from today, so we've brought it into the garage and we're going to do the first startup on this after minimum 10 years. So we've drained out the oil out of the transfer box from this one, and there was a sort of mayonnaise consistency, so water had somehow got into that, rather similar to the other one we were looking at earlier in the video. So we've drained it completely and we've put in new extreme pressure oil back in there and filled it up. We've also checked and filled where necessary both the front and rear axle, and so the final thing to do we're going to do now, and you'll see this on video, we're going to drain the diesel out of the tank and we'll put fresh in, and also we'll check the levels and the quality of the oil in the gearbox. Now the gearbox and the engine use the same oil, so it makes absolute sense that we do a filter change and an oil change on this as well. So when all those fluids are finished, we will go for the first startup in a number of years, and you'll see us hopefully driving it, fingers crossed, a little bit later in this video. On the P4 there were 2 types of fuel tank that were used. one, as we can see here, is the metal type, and the secondary one was plastic. Could hold a lot more fuel and was mostly used for vehicles that were driving in the desert, simply because they could carry more fuel and go further. So we've got a plastic one in this P4, so Ollie's now going to drain it out. And we have to be really careful with the bung in the bottom because we don't want to break the tank. If you want to buy a new tank, I think with all the fittings you could be looking at about £1,000, so we really want to be careful with it. So let's go and zoom in on Ollie and see how he's getting on. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. It's going to go everywhere because it's already coming out. But...
Have you got a secondary? Yeah. Go and get something else to catch it. Whoa, my God. There's quite a bit of diesel in there. It's coming out like that. You better hurry up, George. Hurry, 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 hurry. Quick, swap them over quickly. Nice. I should go and get another one just in case. Yeah. So let's move. You ready? I'm going to move everything.
Yeah, I got my hand over it still.
Here, George. Yeah. Think you need your help?
Oh, Jesus.
So yeah, there was quite a bit in that fuel tank. The fuel gauge obviously doesn't work because we put the battery on it and the fuel gauge didn't do anything, so we had very little idea about the entire amount in there. So yeah, we've got quite a bit out, which is good. It looks pretty off, so I think it was a good idea to drain that out. Let's see if we can now get these into the jerry cans and then off for correct disposal. Now we've drained the fuel tank out, we've put fresh diesel back in, and what we're going to do now is just use the manual fuel pump here, the priming pump, just to get the last of the old diesel out of the system between the fuel tank and the engine. I've started doing this already, and as you can see, yeah, it's pretty grotty, the stuff is off, so we'll just put this pipe back down inside of here and we'll pump it. 1 second. Here we go. Put that back in there. And then we've got a fuel pump over here that we're just pressing. So I'll turn that around so you can see what I'm doing. Oops. Here we go. Pressing down on the primer. We took the radiator out of this truck a while back, cannibalised it for another vehicle, so we've had it repaired and we've got it back. To fit the radiators on these P4s is a little bit tricky actually, so it's much better to take the top cross member off here, and then there are these deflectors that fit down the side. Usually they pop out, but see this one's caught by these bolts at the bottom, so I have to loosen these off. I've taken the middle strut out as well, and I'll take this one off. Pretty straightforward when you're using electrica, he says. Quite a long one on there. When I've got these off, it'd be a lot easier to slide it in. The reason is there's a cowling here that covers up the fan, and we have to align everything up. So yeah, it is a bit of a pain in the bottom, but really, cross member off, 2 parts, these 2 front, so we'll get on with it. We've got the radiator in, we've topped up the antifreeze, we've done all the fluids, so everything's looking really good. And a final little clear out here, you can see I'll shine a light on it. You've always got to be wary what you're finding. I'm not quite sure what that is. It looks to be a round on the bottom half and something on the top. It doesn't look like what I would understand is a normal round, so maybe someone can drop a comment below, let me know what that actually is. It looks like a brass round with some sort of alloy tip in it. I don't know, maybe it might have some sort of cigarette lighter made off of a round, so we'll hang on to that. George will look after that, put that somewhere. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do the first start in minimum 10 years. So it does look a bit Heath Robinson. We've had to chuck some wires around. So we're going to put electrics on, power's on, make sure it's in neutral. We're going to pull out the heater the preheater, just waiting for that to warm up, and hopefully I'll pull it fully out and we'll see if it starts. I think it's more interesting. Ollie, you go around and have a look at the engine, ready for when it goes. Right, you ready?
Yep.
Clear. And again. There we go. I didn't have to do anything. Started first time after probably 10 years. So that's fantastic. We're going to go to the back now and have a look at the exhaust pipe, see what we're getting out. We'll put a few tiny revs in it, nothing too drastic. And then, although the light's now gone because it's getting dark here in the UK quite early, we will try and give it once around the yard just to see if the gearbox works, if the brakes work, and just go through that snag list. So let's go now and have a look at the exhaust and see what we're getting out of it. You go round, Ollie, I'll rev it. What have you got there, Ollie? Anything?
No, it looks alright. Yep. Yep. Clean as a whistle.
Right, okay. So there we go. It shows you how good these little 2.5 Peugeot engines really are. So that's 7 vehicles we had here, and we've managed to start every single one without any great traumas. Yes, we've had to replace the starter motor on a couple of them. We've had to drain the fuel out. Who wouldn't after sat for that length of time? We've not had to do any water pumps yet. No fuel pumps. So yeah, really, really good news. It just shows you how well they're made. So we're going to get it out, give it once around the yard to see if it works. Brakes are binding on it.